And we need job retraining for our workers whose jobs have been sent overseas. We need to clean energy, clean American-made energy. We need to invest in it. Addressing climate change is an imperative, as a matter of security and prosperity. Right here in CD6, while surrounding districts are in the forefront of the new energy economy, our district barely participates. We must invest in trade. We cannot and should not depend on government spending and population growth for our prosperity. We need to attract more primary employers to CD6, as well as small and large employers who export goods and services. To accomplish this, we must protect our open spaces and ensure safe and adequate water supplies. You know, when I speak before the business community and the chambers of commerce, I hold up their very own glossy, their very own advertisements to the business community. And right on the front it says, great schools, great open spaces, great infrastructure. And that's the very thing that we're taking the money out of right now. It's the wrong way to go. And in the long term, we can no longer have a society that's built on debt and consumption. We need to focus instead on investment and production. The biggest long-term threat to our country's prosperity is the national debt. But in order to address the debt, we must review defense spending, control healthcare costs, reduce imported energy, develop a simpler and fairer tax system, control discretionary spending, and promote economic growth. But that's still not enough. We need a fifth branch of service to fulfill non-military national service needs, including education, medical, and overseas service. We need government off the grid, especially the large military installations. We need to support the military's effort to develop synthetic fuel. And we need distributed energy across our district for our businesses, schools, and our homes. We need to fight for equal pay, equal opportunity to serve, the right to choose, and at a minimum, civil unions for all people. We must support worker rights, because what's good for workers is good for America. Right, Ed? Where's Ed? We must insist that Bill of Rights protections are for people and people only. We must pass follow-on health care reform and emphasize youth fitness. We must have immigration reform that is humane and respects America's sovereignty and laws. So you do have a decision to make. Do you want to be represented by a man who stands with the Tea Party, Sarah Palin, and Tom Tancredo? That's what we have. A man who believes health care for all is unconstitutional. Who is against equal rights and equal pay. And he is unwilling to fight for our jobs, right here at home, like those in the Orion program that was saved by the other representatives in this state. It's right here in our district. You know, there's not a business or political leader in this, in our district, and I say business leaders as well, who don't know that if you want something done, you go to Congressman Perlmutter or Senator Bennett or Senator Udall. They know if you don't go to one of them, it just won't happen. Nothing will get done. And that's our opening. And people ask me all the time, why are you running? Why aren't you satisfied with the good fortune that you've experienced in your life? You know, I have a great job as an airline pilot, a wonderful wife and family, 3 great kids. You know, why try when so many fine candidates have tried and lost? Well, I'll tell you why. In 2002, a couple of years after I retired from the reserves, it was apparent to me, and I'm sure most of you, that our country was wildly off track. A few years later, in 2006, my oldest son and his closest friends graduated from Columbine High School. My son David went off to college. He's not here with us today. One of his friends joined the Marines, and another one attended Warren Tech to become an automobile mechanic. You know, I wondered what the future held for each of them, whether the first 2 would ever make it back here to live and raise their families, and whether the third, later on, as things went sour in our economy, would be able to stay and raise his family here. And I wondered what our community would look like 10 years from now. Will we drive down from Pine and Evergreen and Deckers and still see beautiful open spaces and blue skies? I'm not so sure with the direction we're on. Will the ranches around Sedalia and Larkspur and Elizabeth still have water? What will the homes of Castle Rock and Parker and Highlands Ranch be worth 10 years from now? Will Aurora still be dependent on government spending and population growth? Or will the tech center and all of our infrastructure be the engine for economic growth and exports that we need? What direction are we going to go to? And finally, I wonder if Littleton and Cherry Creek and our other communities will still have the great schools that brought us here in the first place. So that's when I reached my decision. You know, in my lifetime, Democrats passed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the War on Poverty, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and at the same time, President Kennedy, Dr. King, and Senator Kennedy gave their lives for our cause. But I'll tell you, Dr. King might say, if he was with us today, we didn't stop there. We put a man on the moon, we established peace between Israel and Egypt, and we recognized that our need for a national energy policy is the moral equivalent of our need to prevent war. But we didn't stop there. We balanced the budget, we created unprecedented prosperity, and we built a military that has heroically done everything that was asked of it and more. But we didn't stop there. We elected Barack Obama. And we took back the House and Senate, where we passed health care reform. And we will go on to pass energy, immigration, and financial reform. And we won't stop here. We won't stop because we have a moral obligation to continue. And as I said, if time were to stop right now, I don't believe the judgment of on our generation by our children and future generations of the work we have done would be so favorable, because we haven't finished the job. But time doesn't stop, and we won't stop either, because there's still too much to do. I'm convinced that when the time for judgment of our generation comes, we will stand proudly with all of the previous generations of Americans who came before us, because we will not stop doing what's right for America. So you have a decision to make. I hope you can come out and support me and all of the great candidates we have in this room, and join us later today at our picnic, which is an appreciation picnic to all of you. Please join us later on. Thank you very much. You have a seat. You sit down.